Welcome everyone in this new lesson on Womp3D. Today we're going to talk about how to manage the environment, lights and shadows of our scenes, which are no less important aspects than the creation itself to ensure a good overall success of our projects, especially if the final purpose is then to export it or to other formats, to make it a render, a 2D image from 3D models, or even animation, so in video format. Let's always start from a new project and observe that if we don't select any object, the panel on the right will be preset to environment. And the first thing in order that we can do is to change the background color, either by shuffle or by choosing the color personally in all the ways seen already for the color of the bodies. So from the HSV selector or with RGB values or with the hex code that identifies the color. As for the option to view the quality of the scene, so the option for the preview of the render, these are only available for the Pro version. But anyway, let's quickly see how the real-time update of the scene works whenever we add or change something. Womp uses a technique called ray tracing, which is based on tracking light rays along their path and how they interact with surrounding objects. These rays can start from any light source, the sun, a light bulb, a candle. Ray tracing can then simulate the illumination of the scene and its objects by reproducing reflections, shadows, refractions, and indirect light in a physically accurate way. Light view here, therefore, allows you to turn off the ray tracing rendering technique by removing all reflections and displaying a lighter version of the scene with better performance. Immediately below that, then, you can decide to uncheck Show Grid so that the grid is no longer displayed, which, although it may be useful at the time of construction, it is certainly not ideal for an end result. Let's now talk about the lighting topic. Womp uses global lighting scenes to illuminate the model and show reflections of glossy materials, and the panel on the right shows a flat preview of the 3D lighting scene, as if the environment around our scene has been flattened to show us better along with the type of lighting. This is what will provide the initial light sources and reflections for our scenes. If we click on the preview image, it will also open up all the other options from the top toolbar. Let's see how we have lots of templates to choose from. Some of natural light, warmer or cooler, strong or dim, and often they have names of existing places that precisely have been photographed and taken from reference. For example, Gamring or Kloppenheim or Shadowplatz, all located in Germany, or this neighborhood in Shanghai, or the Blue Lagoon spa area in Iceland, and so on. Then we also have those of artificial light, so interiors such as gymnasium or parking lot, including different types of photography studios with various professional lighting setups or even a street light outside. So of these preset setups, you can change something and also add more lights later. Let's go in order. Below the preview image is the exposure slider, on the other hand, with which you can adjust the exposure of the overall lighting with this slider, or as usual, enter a number from 1 to 100 in the text box. In general, we recommend not to go beyond 20 because this scene will be too fixed to use, and with 0, we will have the elimination of any light source hitting the ideal lens in our scene, and consequently also the elimination of any color. Still below, with the second slider, you can rotate the light source and therefore also the shadows and reflections of the bodies. As we were scrolling through the light angles we have throughout the day to find our favorite with longer or shorter shadows from the left or from the right. Now we can move on to adding, editing, or using light sources in Womp that can make the scene more dynamic or dramatic by highlighting or shading certain aspects. You can add up to 16 more light sources, which can be rectangular, spherical, or dome. Let's try it now to build a very simple room, then with 2 walls, ceiling, and floor to observe how shadows cast even on vertical support behave. Let's build the floor first. Then we can take a cube and scale it by decreasing the height and increasing the other 2 dimensions. Then we activate snapping from here, do Ctrl-D to duplicate it and rotate it so it becomes a wall. And thanks to the snap, to the red dots, we align it to the edge of the floor. Then again, we duplicate the body and arrange it here too on the other side by rotating it, and finally the ceiling, just moving a new cabin up and arranging it. If we want, we can also create a small hinted window. So let's take a new cube here at the bottom of the list and make it negative. Go subtract material from one of the two walls and maybe give the edges a little rounding. Now we can go and see what this differentiation of the three lights entails. Let's start with the rectangular one, this one here, which is an array light, as if it were a panel or a softbox, which we can scale even just in one direction to get the shape we want, and it emits lights only in a certain direction, in one direction. So let's try to put it on the ceiling as if it were a LED panel. Be careful how is it oriented then, because we want our light downward. The spherical source, on the other hand, emits light in all directions, so like a light bulb. And of course, it is only scaled evenly like a sphere. Let's try to place it just inside our blue shape here and see the effect that is created. While if we add a new positive sphere, this time maybe change the color to a light yellow and place the spherical light inside it, we can have a real effect of light given by a lamp. So let's try to play with these values as well to get a more or less pronounced result, more or less transparent for our dear shell of the lamp, and it always depends on what you want to achieve. Now, talking about the dome, it places the light on a hemisphere surrounding the model, as if it were the sun, so there is no point deciding its position because it will always be constantly diffused. But what we change a lot is its rotation. Let's place it right above our model and see what happens if we rotate along the three axes. We have a wealth of light and shadow effects to vary between. That also becomes a double-edged sword, however, because we need to pay attention to the plausibility of our scenes. If we have chosen a natural ambient light, in fact, there is no point in adding another one with a dome, because surely the two natural lights will never fully match. And even when choosing indoor ambient lights, always use these two with caution. So we see that our lights are also added here in the tool panel on the left, before all the other bodies, and clicking on these three dots will show us the tab of information about position, rotation, and then color and luminance. If we click on the thumbnail under color of the selected light to display the color picker, we always have all the options already mentioned at our disposal. Of course, the color of a light has a lot of intrinsic meaning, from a warmer light that conveys comfort, coziness, warmth, while the colder one, the opposite values, so restlessness or an aseptic atmosphere. With a green light, you can convey some disgust maybe, and in some ways, and so on. It's up to you to figure out what message you want to convey with your lights. Do a lot of testing and you will surely find the most suitable one. Let's go. Of course, you can adjust the brightness with the luminance slider and thus the intensity of your light, also typing in a value between 0 and 100. The last option we are going to analyze today is the light and environment panel. Although we are told it is in the experiment stage, is depth of field, which is the distance between the nearest and farthest object in an image that are in focus. A camera can only focus on one point at a time, but the transition from sharp to blurry is gradual. If we click the toggle here, depth of field is activated and all the blur options are displayed. Increasing the blur strength slider is like increasing the aperture, creating more blur, also called bokeh effect. So we can select ourselves the focal point of our model, that is the area that you want to be sharpened. So we click it here on set focus, and with this yellow tool we can select the object of our creation that we want, like this sphere, and we see that everything behind it will be less sharp. Well, I will say that's it for today. Thank you for watching so far. If you found the video interesting, leave a like and a comment for any doubt or suggestion. Subscribe to the channel, and if you feel like supporting us, you can also subscribe as a supporter to help us always create new videos, and we will see you in the next video.